I'll call the regular board meeting of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District to order. First item of business is setting the agenda. We have one addition for the office space packet here that Steve handed out to everyone. We'll add that after the manager per diem and before the budget 2020 discussion. So anything else that needs to be changed?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. All right. Next item is the consent agenda.
I would like to pull out the Thursday regular meeting, June 20th. I spoke to you and Emily this afternoon about some changes on that one.
And this is for just the regular meeting?
Just the regular meeting, yeah.
Yeah, not the,
So I'm working with her to get those changed. We'll bring it
Okay.
to the next meeting.
okay.
So I will make the motion to approve the A and B items, the special board meeting on June 3rd and the initial planning meeting on June 20th.
I'll second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public open forum. Looks like we're good there. All right. Citizens Advisory Committee update.
Mr. President, managers, the main thing that the CAC has been working on is the roles and responsibilities document, which we will be talking about very shortly. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any questions for Jessica on the report?
No, I thought it was very good that they went through that exercise, and especially since there's so many new people, it gives them more of a sense of direction. So that was a good idea.
Good. All right. Aquatic invasive species update. Garrett?
Yes, so I have compiled the hours worked by the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District watercraft inspectors from the date that they were hired back in May, I believe, until the end of June. And we have reached approximately 25% of our goal hours for Forest Lake, 31% for Bone Lake, 53% for Comfort Lake. We have just recently hired on an extra watercraft inspector. Previously, we had 4. We currently now have 5. So with a bit of scheduling, or the changes in the scheduling and that additional watercraft inspector, we hope to reach those goals by the end of the season. I guess since the last board meeting, we completed the Bone Lake zebra mussel treatment. That wrapped up on June 26th. We removed the barrier, decontaminated it, brought back the sections from Carver County back to them, and then the sections of barrier that were purchased by the district and the city of Forest Lake were transported back to the Forest Lake Public Works facility, where they can be used for any future treatments or oil spills or whatever needs to be used. I have on here that mentioning the flowering rush treatment on Forest Lake. Originally, that was supposed to begin today with treatment. However, it was a bit windy, so Patrick from PLM will begin treatment tomorrow if weather permits. I have been looking into treatment options for a couple populations of non-native Phragmites within the district, utilizing the resources provided by the U of M. They have a map that shows occurrence locations for non-native Phragmites, one of which was south of Second Lake on Forest Lake. And I went out there, I surveyed this, and I have confirmed with Julia Bonin from the U of M that this population is in fact native and not native, so we will not be seeking treatment options for that. However, we have confirmed that there is a population just east of Bone Lake. It's about 900 square feet, and I have been looking into treatment options and receiving quotes for that.
Okay.
Just a question, what did you think was there? What non-native Phragmite did you think was there? Or did somebody think was there?
So it's, they have like, they take samples in or eyewitness reports from people to help build this map of occurrences. So it was just a case of someone misidentifying it, saying that it was a non-native species of Phragmites, when in fact it's actually the native species.
Does it have a name, though?
It's just native Phragmites.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
There was.
So how similar are they? I mean,
Appearance-wise, fairly similar, but there are some key characteristics that distinguish them too. One that's very apparent is that if you were to look at this population just south of Forest Lake and then you go to the Bone Lake one, there is probably a good 6-foot difference in height.
oh,
Like non-native is a good 12 to 15 feet tall, maybe even taller. Like the Bone Lake one is over the power lines and it's growing in a ditch. Wow. So, yeah, very tall and a very aggressive plant that fills in wetlands and kind of takes over. So I think it's in our best interest to stay on top of it.
wow.
Yeah.
And then, as was scheduled or planned in the year schedule, prior to the alum treatment in Shields Lake this fall, we proposed a carp removal for the lake. After some research, we have determined, and seeking proposals from different organizations, we have determined that the proposal provided by WSB had the best treatment options for the best cost. Emily and I are currently drafting, I don't know what to call it. Contract, thank you, Mike. Contract for that, and we will be sending that their way shortly. This treatment would involve, let's see here, 2 attempts at a commercial signing netting. They have the ability to potentially stretch 2,000 feet worth of sign net around the lake, which is enough to do the majority of the shoreline, so we're hoping to have good success with that. And then to increase their capture, they are willing to go to areas of the lake that you cannot have those nets, such as submerged logs and the aerator. They'll try and do removals using boat electrofishing with. And then there's the potential for commercial gill netting. However, there's DNR regulations on this, and they don't always allow for that, but there's a potential for it. And then within that quote, I advised that we funded radio tagging, because if we do not meet our removal goals, winter signing has been shown to have the best removal percentages or success rates, I should say, because they form congregations underneath the ice. So if we can track them now through the fall into the winter, and we still needed, remove X amount of carp to reach our goals, we should be able to easily pinpoint where they are and hopefully remove large congregations. And I think that's all I got.
So the plan is to put leave some in there that are radio tagged?
Yes.
And then check them in the winter to see if
Yeah.
there's a population big enough that we have to take it out. Is that the?
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of contingent on how or what our removal is with the initial sign netting. If we feel like we still need to do more removal after this, I would suggest that we do fund the tracking. That way in the winter we can cut a hole in the ice and find where they are.
Find them.
Remove them that way.
Okay. Steve?
Have we used this firm before or not? Have we checked the references?
Mike?
Mr. President, managers, yes, I'm familiar with the firm and I'm familiar with their work.
Okay, because the reason I ask, I don't know whether you heard about Clear Lake. They have a aggressive program with the DNR, to get, they have something like, I don't know, 3,200 carp in there, and they're supposed to get it down to way less than that. And they got a bid for $44,000 with a firm that was supposed to be very experienced. And the day they were out netting, all the carp were on shoreline spawning. So they netted 160 fish, and it cost them $44,000. So my only point is, do we have any kind of control in the contract where there's got to be a minimum number of fish caught for the $12,000? Because, I mean, 12 isn't as bad as 44, but, I mean, it's still.
Yes, so I've had familiar with contracts for carp seining and other removal activities, so there is a way, and I have done it, where we would put basically like a mobilization fee in there, and then something contingent upon removal.
At least to give us some cover.
Right, because we have the report already. I mean, so the staff is working on it, but we're still going back and forth. But when I talked to Garrett about it, I just said, let's get started on it, and then we'll talk with the WSB staff about what that might look like. The commercial fishermen they're always shy of doing it outside of that, but also at the same time, the two seines that they're proposing, I've seen proposals in that category for a single one. So I'm actually pleased, if you will, that the proposed cost for the three methods is actually what it is. Because knowing the population in there, it's commercially not a huge haul by comparison of a lot of lakes around the Midwest or the United States where these guys go. I mean, and this commercial fisherman locally here that has Washington County, he's all over into various states. So I'm actually, and I've been talking to him, and I'm trying to get him just independently, but he was never willing to do so, never fit into his schedule. So, but he seems to have some sort of relationship with this firm, and so I think that if we get 2 attempts, but the only thing from experience also is that carp, and what others will tell you, like Dr. Sorensen at the University of Minnesota, carp are smart. I mean, they'll recognize certain activity and then they'll scatter. So you typically have, an open water seine will be one thing. To do it again, in Spring Lake with a very large population, first time we netted a lot. We've removed those, we then put some back with the tags, and every time after that, every time they heard that chainsaw cutting the ice, they scattered. So I think we made like 2 or 3 attempts afterwards, and we never, so it was not successful.
So we gotta get as many as we can right away.
Yep.
Another question, just a clarification on the curly leaf pondweed treatment that is in the book, but you didn't talk about it, June 18th. I guess whoever did that said there's no viable curly leaf pondweed left.
Oh, yes. In Moody,
And I just want to clarify, because
Yep.
when we treat 150 feet out, right? We didn't treat the whole lake, or did we treat the whole lake?
if I remember correctly, no, we treated, I forgot how many acres, but since it is both those lakes are so small and so shallow, it was effectively like a full lake treatment. It was enough to disperse or diffuse out.
Okay, because when they say no curly leaf left, I'm wondering if they just looked at the treated areas or if they looked on the shoreline. Because when we were out there last year in the summertime, you could walk across the lake. I mean, there was so much curly leaf in the shoreline. If you didn't kill that, and we do an alum treatment, we're gonna have curly leaf all over the lake again because of all the seeds. So again, I'm concerned about this curly leaf pondweed with the alum treatment, because we're gonna spend a lot of money on alum treatment. And I don't know how important it is that we control that, but I think it's pretty important, isn't it? So I don't know whether we wanna go ahead with that, or somebody should double check it, I guess.
I can certainly confirm that with Steve McComas. However, in the email, it sounded like he was he made it sound like he
Yeah, Steve was ready to
inspected the
give you an
entire
answer,
lake.
and ask him if he saw any curly leaf along the shoreline, because normally they treat 150 feet out. Because it's public waters, and
Sure.
that's what you're usually, and we weren't trying to do a, what do you call it, not annihilation, but
Eradicate.
eradication, yeah.
Mike? You have a comment?
Just want to provide a clarification based on conversation with council. He said today he reviewed the contract and the proposal is $3,000 for 2 seines. We should just go ahead with it regardless. Not worry about quantities or something. That's a very low I mean, that's very reasonable.
The cost of the alum treatment is only $3,000?
No, the cost of the carp removal, the two
Oh,
open
okay.
water stains are 3,000, so just a clarification there.
Okay,
Okay.
I have a couple.
Yeah, Kat, Jack.
thanks, Garrett.
Thank you.
On the chart, and this is true of everyone, so I'm looking at the Moody one right now. We asked that that middle 5-year period be added, but I think there was a misunderstanding. Those should be 5-year, that should be the 5-year average. And then the current one would be the one that would be only 4 years this year, but would be, or excuse me, last year, but the 5th year would be this year for that column. So we may have had the dates wrong when we were talking about that at that meeting on the 9th, but the intent was to have 5-year buckets. And only the current one would be a progression from 1 year to the next up to 5.
Then it would start over.
Yeah, because it would be your current reading.
So in 5-year buckets.
Yeah.
But the most recent one will be in whatever, however many
Well,
years
this
we
year,
have.
this year it would actually be the 5th year, so
Right.
we'd have 3 columns of 5-year
Yep.
information.
Next year it'll only be one then, right?
That's correct. That would
Right.
be your current
Right.
bucket. Mhm.
I'll talk to Emily about that.
Yeah.
We had a misunderstanding of.
Yeah,
what
I
was
kind
being
of
looked
figured
for.
when I read that.
And that, in that case, that might, okay, yep.
And that way we have that nice constant look back
Right. In the same size chunk.
in the same size chunks.
Right.
And you should be able to see a progression
Right, right.
with all the work that we're doing these different lakes. That's why that was important.
Okay, that
Okay.
makes more sense. Thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying.
Okay, and then I was just curious on the Little Comfort, we still don't have anybody that came forward for the zebra mussel detection program. So, well, you wouldn't know that, I suppose, but the staff would. Yeah, nobody
I think-
volunteered to do that?
I thought that for the zebra mussel? For
Yeah.
The sample.
Oh, I don't know.
I have not received any responses
Okay.
from anyone.
We still have somebody on Big Comfort though, right? 1 or 2?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look into that. We've already talked about that. The Forest Lake narrative, the 49 acres of heavy native plant growth by the September 1st deadline, what percentage is that? Maybe you know.
What is it, what's the question?
It's, the very last one was talking about the harvester will attempt to remove all of the delineated 49 acres of heavy native plant growth. What percentage of is that?
The lake is about 2,450 acres.
That middle section?
Oh, the middle section?
Isn't that all you're doing?
No,
is
it's
the
about
middle?
900 acres.
Yeah, okay, so it's a small percentage. Okay, and the last comment was on comfort. The middle paragraph, I just wanted to make sure that our historical references are always true. The 2016 treatment went up from 3.2 acres to 7.5. That was the year we did the early treatment. So I would like that reference corrected so that we understand why that was different. So that was really early before any lilies were coming up and so on, and so it was very successful, that early treatment as well. So if you could check into that and make sure that that's correct. And then just as an anecdotal comment, I've talked to Mike, or told Mike about this, but we have had just an incredible amount of white water lilies this year. And in the bay up by, on the southeast part of Comfort, Big Comfort, on Highway 8, I counted 70. So going from the culvert over to the second house, actually it would be the third house over past the bay, there were 70. We had 4 in our area alone, on our swimming area.
I have several. in
And you
my
have
area.
some, yeah, I saw a couple of those too down that way, I didn't count them all, but,
There's a dozen or so.
yeah, so that's usually a sign of some improvement
Something.
in water quality, is what
'Cause
Steve
usually they're
McComas told me
yellow.
a long time ago, but, well, the water has to be a little better than,
Right.
to support the white ones. He could tell us more about it, but I just thought I'd add that, because that is, that's not normal.
Yeah, normally they're yellow.
Yeah, we've had white ones in the past, but never this quantity. Okay, that was it.
Okay, anything else on the AIS report?
I guess I could add quickly, as part of the requirements by the DNR for the pilot treatment, we are periodically going out and surveying the lake for any post-treatment populations of zebra mussels. Between the WCDA and staff, we've done several treatments and will continue to do so in the future throughout the rest of the open water season. And I don't believe I mentioned, but shortly after, on June 25th, I actually went to a Bone Lake Association meeting with Matt Downing. And during that meeting, we gave him an update on the treatments and handed out information on how they could become involved with the surveying efforts. And we'll hopefully get that information from them as the summer goes on into the fall, and hopefully have good news with nothing found. So that is it.
Okay, that's it.
That's all I have. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Move on to new business. Item A, permit 19-005, Menards Warehouse Edition.
Mr. President and managers? So this permit is for the expansion of Menards, and last year this came up in relation to the wetland, but this is just relating to the district rules. So it triggered the stormwater management rule and erosion control. So in the figure, you can see the warehouse addition is shown in yellow, and you can see the existing Menards on the bottom of the image. So this is on the,
On the
this would be the
west
south side, or west.
Is it the west side?
I think my arrows, there you go, the west side.
Behind Menards, right?
Behind
Really,
it, yep.
essentially
Behind
behind
it.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you can see on the left side of the image is the existing treatment pond, and this currently provides rate control for the site, and actually with the additional impervious area, it will continue to serve for rate control. So that meets the district requirements for rate control. So they're not disturbing more than 50% of the site, so they just need to treat the new impervious area and reconstruct it. So it's about 1.5 acres. So their calculations for 1.1 inches, 5,900 cubic feet they're treating. There are some layers of clay soils in this area, so infiltration was a little limited. So what they proposed is underground treatment with a sand filter. So it's a multi-chambered underground filter. The first chamber is to kind of be pre-treatment, and then the full treatment is in additional chambers. And they have to use that factor, so it basically double the treatment, and they exceed that. So they meet the requirements for treating the runoff. And then the overflow from that treatment chamber goes into that existing pond. So that's where the new runoff also gets treated for rate control. So they meet the district rules for stormwater treatment, and then erosion control, given the fact that the construction is very close to that wetland on the east side or west side. There's a double silt fence, so they have a little bit more than other construction projects do. Inlet protection, erosion control mats, and of course a SWIP. That has been reviewed. So recommendation is to approve the permit. It's still waiting on the maintenance instrument for the new and existing facility, since it'll be receiving additional runoff, and then the financial assurance.
Question. What is that hatched area to the south, right around the building? And then it's also on the east side as too. I can't see it from here.
Blue lines, you mean?
No, it's a
It's
hatched
that
area.
Yellow, it's
Yep,
the,
those are erosion control mats.
Oh, okay. So from the edge of the building,
to the silt fence.
yeah.
Where they're disturbing around the
Okay.
addition of the warehouse.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yep.
Nice.
So all the erosion control is what's shown in yellow.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions about the permit?
What type of maintenance policy will come out of this? Will they be maintaining it? Will the city be maintaining it?
They will be maintaining it, and this is something, you know, we have a standard template, but, you know, Greg will be reviewing it, looking into how they will maintain that underground treatment facility. So there's, you know, access points, and he'll just make sure that the timing, that they're inspecting it enough to see if sediment's accumulating to clean it out. So that's what will be in that
And how often
operation
should
and
that be
maintenance.
maintained or cleaned? What's
It-
the recommendation? Will there be a recommendation for maintenance schedule?
There will be, and it'll be, I mean, it's always depend on how quickly it fills up.
Right.
But, yep, so we'll want to make sure we don't just set a
Okay.
specific time, but,
Right.
yep. Greg will be reviewing that and kind of keeping that in mind.
Okay.
This is,
So it's a good chance, again, to start our database on this of the applications that are out there. So, yeah, we had talked about this before, trying to get a record of where all these things are and how often they have to be maintained, and then go back and start checking on them, so.
yep.
Anything else? All right.
I'll move that we accept permit application number 19005, City of Forest Lake.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? No?
Just,
We got 3 people going here. All right. Chuck?
Just to note, I presume that the motion would adopt the recommended conditions of the engineer.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Recommendations and stipulations, yeah.
Okay. So that's the motion and the second. All right. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, permit's been approved. All right, now we get to talk about the Citizens Advisory Committee roles and responsibilities. Jessica.
All right, so back on this topic again. Mr. President, managers, we've heard a little bit about this over the last few board meetings as the CAC has been meeting and talking about this. A little background, the reason that this came up is, as Manager Anderson mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of new members onto the CAC, as well as the long-serving chair of the CAC stepped down. And, you know, looking for someone to replace that chair, everyone was kind of leery to step forward because there wasn't a whole lot of framework as far as what does the CAC do? How do they specifically accomplish the goals that they're setting out to do? So that's how it came about to start drafting this roles and responsibilities document. So what you have before you is the draft that the CAC concurred on at their last meeting. And I did receive word from Chuck that, and Chuck, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's less getting approval from the board and more just getting concurrence with the document itself.
I concur. If we need something more formal, you know, I'll make a motion to accept the CAC's roles and responsibilities document.
We do not.
We don't need it. Okay.
No.
Don't need it?
It's there. Chuck, yeah.
Just to clarify, the CAC has its existence through a specific statute where the board appoints the members, but then the committee itself basically is directed to organize itself and decide how to conduct its business. So obviously it wants to consult and coordinate with you, so what it's spending its time on is useful to you, but just as a technical matter, it's organizationally, it operates independently.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay. And then I guess the last item I'll note here is that I believe President Spence has indicated he'll attend the next CAC meeting coming up here. And then after that, we'll be looking for the next manager who'd like to step forward during the next quarter to attend one of the meetings.
We're doing it just once a quarter?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that was at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And because they were in the middle of doing these roles and responsibilities, it didn't make much sense for me to show up to one of their meetings. They were just editing the document and working on it.
So October, I can do October. That would be the next one.
All right. All right, so.
So just a note in the minutes then that we concur? Okay.
Yep, looks good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to old business, 8A, manager per diem. Mike?
President, managers, just as noted in the memo, staff discussed with council kind of what some of the policies and bylaws for the managers and the district overall, to see if there's any need for adjustments. There is not, so, presently we would just, for all the meetings and things, we know who's attending, we'll just process those monthly. For anything outside of that, there's that form that managers then would need to submit also on a monthly basis, if that's their so desired, but certainly no more than 60 days, 2 months.
Unless we waive that 60 days, which I would recommend for this first time, since we got the memo last time that this actually goes back to April, when we passed the governance policy. So if anyone wants to go back and do that, I would like to keep that open.
So going forward, we'll adopt the 60 days, but,
Well, it's just a waiver for this one time.
yeah, for this one
This
time.
first submission.
Yeah, okay, that's okay.
That's actually what our policies currently state, so there's no need to make any changes.
Oh, okay. So it already is 60 days?
Correct.
We're just waiving that for this first one to catch up, so,
Sure. Right.
yeah, okay. All right. No action on that one, just to,
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, if there was a change, you would
Right.
need an action, but if you're
we're not,
opting out, then no.
okay. All right, let's move on to the new item that we added, the office space discussion. Steve?
Basically have three things we want to go through tonight. The first is to go through a discrepancy on how much space we're paying for the common area. The second thing is to share with you this kind of statements we're receiving from Mr. Swanson and reconciliation. And the third then is to review with the board the suggested changes the committee came up with, legal counsel's help. So looking at the first one would be this email you have in front of you. And what we have here is the entryway, if you know the entryway of the building. It's the common space, and that basically has 403 square feet in it. Okay, yeah, thank you. And we're assigned 51% of that as being our cost, which would make it, we're assigned right now 244 square feet, which is actually 60% of the area rather than 51. So we're paying a little bit more than we should, so that's about a 38 square foot difference. At $8 a square foot, it'd be about $300 a year, or about 1% on the $30,000 that we'd be paying next year. So I think, while there is some inaccuracy there, I'm not sure it's worth trying to go after it and hassle. We've got, especially since he's going to be giving us $5,000, and that's probably going to more than outweigh what we're missing here.
This is more just an
It's an
advisory
information, yeah.
to the board of what is happening. We're not recommending that we go after it,
Right, okay.
but just so that you're aware.
Yeah, we know about it now, so, okay. All right,
So the second one, there's actually two documents. One is stapled together. Let's start with that one, the 3-page one. So this first sheet is an estimate, like a forecast for the year of 2018 of what the cost could be. So we've got our rent in there, column 1. You've got insurance, you've got taxes. This is our share of the rent, insurance, and taxes. CAM credit, recycled garbage, and special expense. Special expense is defined at the bottom, which has to do with repairing the parking lot and also completely resurfacing the parking lot. So this outlays then kind of what we expect the cost to be in the coming year. So then if you go to the next page, this is at the end of the year reconciliation. And while it's a little cluttered and sloppy, I was able to work through it. And you see the brackets I wrote is how much that the total was under the estimate. So in essence, he owes the people renting the building $1,800, and our share of that is shown for taxes, insurance, and CAM, which comes out to be a net in the middle of the page of $923 credit. And if you go back to the first sheet again, I'm sorry, if you go back to the single sheet for next year, yeah, and you look at the CAM credit column, it's $918, which is pretty close, so, which means that we're getting the credit.
Okay.
Okay? Now, later in the year, the third document that was stapled together, later in the year, after a couple months after that, he found out he had additional expenses. So he sent us a special year-end closing statement showing that our CAM was over by, for HVAC repair, $99. There was extra snow plowing cost, and energy was a little higher and so forth. And so that comes out to be a total of $64.79, or a shortage of $1,280. So then our share of that was 51%. That's how we ended up paying the $576 in May. So I guess the point here is that, and now next year we've got this forecast sheet, which is the other sheet. So we've got the documents to maintain these. Now, the issue is that these are the only documents we received. And I was able to get some of these when I met with Tom at the library when we went through the contract, because he had them with him, and I insisted I get a copy. And then I think Jessica had one copy from this past thing, but we have not received previous years in the past. So the thought here would be, is that correct, Mike?
That's correct.
Okay. So what we need to do is, after the contract's signed and we're all squared away, then I plan to go back and ask for at least the last 3 years to make sure that we're getting the adjustments correctly. And then if we have any questions, we can then further request specific invoices for specific costs. So that's kind of the plan, as treasurer of the plan going forward, to tighten this area up a little bit and get better cooperation from Mr. Swanson. Okay. And we've made some changes in the contract that you'll see here that works towards that end also. Okay. So let's move then to the contract, which is typed, and the changes are in red. And this is the amendment extension of the commercial lease agreement. So we're basically using the old lease with these changes tacked on top. And Chuck, I'm not still clear on the premises. You want to explain that first one between the common area and how the premises was defined and why we added this first red point in the first paragraph? I can cover the rest. Do you have a copy with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, managers. It's not too complicated. In the original lease, the term premises is used to refer to the area that's the subject of the lease, generally throughout. But in one of the paragraphs at the beginning, and particularly because there was some handwritten material written in there, it just created an ambiguity there where one could say, the situation is that a portion of the common area is being considered as the district's space for certain purposes under the lease. And there was just some material written in here that made it unclear whether premises perhaps means the district's lease space plus its portion of the common space, which is not optimal because the lease obligates the district in certain ways with respect to the premises and that those obligations shouldn't run into the common area. Right. Anyway, so we're just taking the opportunity at the top here to affirm that premises simply means the district's own exclusive space. Okay.
Can you point out where the word premises is used for the common space, so I can cover that with him? I'm not sure. I would.
It's in the first paragraph of the lease.
It's, yeah, actually the second paragraph of the 2014 lease?
Yeah.
So both, it's used differently in the same paragraph then?
It's,
So the inconsistency is within that same paragraph?
yes, it says the premises consists of the area as shown on Appendix A, all of which is for the exclusive use of lessee. And then he writes in, except for the entrance and stairway. So he's carving entrance and stairway out of, as a portion of the premises that are not
Oh,
for
I
the
see.
exclusive use of lessee.
Right. Okay, thank you. So if you look at the other ones now, we've got the terms of the lease, which is basically the years that we're renting, the rent amount, which I've double-checked, triple-checked the numbers, so they're correct. And then we wanted to tighten up, at least put all the CAM charges in one area. So this statement takes all the CAM charges that were in the document, and there was some stuff in a footnote, so brings it all together in one spot. And the last sentence was an attempt to get at having him respond within a certain defined period. If leasee requests to inspect documentation of cost under the lease, landlord shall provide such documentation within 2 weeks of a request. I just happened to be talking to Tom today about some of the changes we were making, and he did not react very favorably to 2 weeks. So, as I kind of thought might happen. So I think what I would suggest we do is change that to a reasonable time, Chuck, if we can do that.
Mr. Chair, Manager Schmaltz, I guess what I would suggest, I think it's a good idea to have a specific time, because he could consider 3 years to be reasonable. But that if the board approves this tonight, it can approve it, leaving to you the ability to resolve it on a specific amount of time.
But in the contract, he has us respond within 30 days, so he must feel that's reasonable. So the 30-day would be the contract, similar that we could reference as being reasonable.
Start there. Yeah.
Is that true?
That's a negotiating strategy. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Seems a good place to start.
right. Okay, we'll see how it ends up. If we can get, maybe I'll just put 30 days in there, but,
Okay.
okay.
As long as there's a date.
Okay.
I'm looking at the next here. Well, there was, you dropped a term there, is that correct, on number 4, Chuck? Well, they omitted our right of first refusal to purchase the building. And I believe Chuck has rewritten this slightly with different words, so.
This isn't very substantive. There was that right, that first option to purchase, which is now obsolete. So this clause simply states that it's obsolete.
And the number 5 gets at our commitment for him to contribute money to our remodel. And rather than having it dependent upon signing the lease, it's already noted here that he's already signed that, and it's basically gone through. So we're covered, we don't have to worry about that anymore. I think that's it. Are there any questions? Is there anything else, Chuck, that, I think we covered everything.
The only other item there, the last sentence in that section 5, that you asked for, to be clear that once we get to the end of the lease,
Right.
the district doesn't have to undo any of its improvements.
So your next step is to take this back?
I hope to meet
Tom?
with him tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm leaving town, as you know, until August 7th, so I'd like to get this lease to him. And if nothing else, do you think it would be advisable to take a clean copy as well as with the red one, and then I could have him sign it right then if he's willing to sign it?
With that change.
With the change to
30
30
days.
days.
With the change, 30 days, yeah.
Yeah. That seems like a good idea if you can get him to sign it.
Okay.
He may want his attorney to look at it,
Right.
so.
May hold things up
Maybe.
for a bit.
I would predict probably not.
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so, do we have to have this approved, or maybe I
Well,
can?
You have to.
so if the board is comfortable, number 1, you'd authorize the president to sign it after consultation with Manager Schmaltz. And then number 2, whether you want to give the president the discretion to make any final changes that he considers reasonable.
Should we sign the copy and then take a signed copy to him? Probably be easier to do it that way, then we'd be finished, right?
It would be easier, and perhaps it would create a slightly additional sense in his mind to just go ahead and get it done. Or maybe not, but there's no harm in it.
Can you sign it tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be in town, sign it.
Okay, so why don't we plan?
I'll
to
make
do-
a motion pertaining to what Chuck just said.
I'll second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Oh,
say-
wait, one more thing, I forgot about this. Jessica, you almost missed all this here. We've got some discrepancies that are going on a little bit, and Mike, have you looked at this and you okay with this?
Yes, I mean, that's kind of been,
Maybe you want to explain it, Mike, since,
well, when we first started occupying the space, the garbage service was just for Kodiak. So we were then in need of obtaining our own. And so I had just worked out for Tom that since one thing's, given our activity, having a rug service come in and just change them out, I said, would you be agreeable? Because he had an unsightly rug in this main entranceway, and I said, we'll add a rug and put it there, and since it kind of bundled up into the same price, I think, anyway, but in exchange for the garbage service, and we can use yours. So that's how that was arranged, and that was really just a verbal discussion between himself and me, that if that was reasonable, so we could avoid having more dumpsters out there.
okay, so why I bring that up is that garbage should be free then, right, for us? But we're being charged for garbage right now on the contract. Last year and this coming year, we're gonna be charged $30 rather than $20 a month. So as I understand it, we should be charged nothing on that, right?
Correct, it was supposed to be an equal exchange.
So I don't know whether that goes back the whole 5 years, but this contract was established when? Verbal contract was established when we first moved in?
Very early on, right, because he told us that we had to get our own,
Okay.
so.
Not a lot of money, so maybe we'll just finish up this year. Chuck?
Isn't it also the case that the interior cleaning is a part of CAM charge? So even if he took care of the rugs, he would still be including that cost in the CAM charge?
Well, as I understand it, I think Kodiak is doing the cleaning. Isn't that part of, weren't they cleaning it when we provided the rug? Or no? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I see cleaning out there.
Well, they were always, because of course they're the high user of that space, they're clients. And so they have previously been vacuuming it anyway. So, but as I said, it was in poor condition, and so that was something that he was interested in sort of negotiating. But still remained that, yes, that they would, in between the rug service, which is twice a month or something.
The contract says that we should pay our own garbage. So the point is that it's not a lot of money, but yet we should probably be consistent as much as we can, based upon our legal counsel's opinion. And so, do we want to mess with this? What do we want to do? How do we want to handle it?
Well, I think that given the lack of space in that area out there, I mean, and for us, we would not want to have large dumpsters. We would just want to have regular garbage cans, which then, seems like an inefficient use of the garbage services out there. I mean, so if everybody had to have their own,
Right.
I mean, typically it's not a problem to accommodate a couple of bags that we would generate, and it's probably maybe even a bag a month or something really a week rather, but,
So I'll just ask Tom if he would just drop this based upon the agreement. If he doesn't want to do it, should we just?
I think he's only charging us for recyclable garbage, so do we have more recyclable paper than Kodiak has recyclable product?
no, I mean, at least again, by observation, they have a lot of milk jugs and everything else that their volume is substantially higher,
Paper cups and all that.
so, but it's,
I'm just asking, I don't know. It's not the
It's
full
not
garbage
significant,
charge.
but
It's not the full garbage charge, it's just for recyclables. That's what's on here. That's my point.
So I'll dig into this, and if you want to let me just make a decision on it then,
Yeah.
because it's not that much money. And then if we take it off, then we probably should, we'll just take it off, I guess, and then we can initial the change on the contract, that the garbage has been removed as far as.
There isn't garbage mentioned here.
Yeah, there is, up in
CAM charges? No. Common area cleaning and janitorial.
No,
service.
but there's a separate charge up front on the second. If you look at the main contract, it's in the main
Oh,
contract.
it's not in this
No.
addendum. Okay, gotcha, okay. All right, all right.
Oh, so I'll bring it up with Tom and we'll figure something out.
Okay. All right, so motion's been made and
Yep.
seconded. Any other discussion?
Only that if he doesn't want to sign and he wants to send it to the attorney, and you're out of town, this certainly can go on.
Right.
I certainly can meet with him and we can wrap this up.
You'll be
and then-
you'll be my backup when I'm gone.
Okay.
Yes, of
That's
course.
okay.
And participant when you're here, but
Right.
yes.
No, right.
But the final wrap-up can take place.
Yeah, we can keep moving.
We don't
forward.
have to wait
No.
until you're back.
I just wanted to get it started.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's my only comment, is that we can keep moving.
Right, so we don't have to wait until Steve comes
Yep.
back. Okay. All right, so motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, so let's move on to the draft 2020 budget discussion. I believe tonight we're primarily discussing section 5,000, but we can go back to 1,000 and 3,000 if there are any changes that anyone had, but. So are there any comments on the 5,000 section?
Let me just
Start there,
have a minute here to
pull it out.
pull it out.
I'll start with one question I had on 5221C, the Moody alum treatment. We currently are allocating $5,000. Is that seems low for a second treatment. I don't,
Second treatment will be done this year,
okay, so we won't have anything potentially in
Right, just some-
2020.
maybe some sampling or monitoring or something.
Okay, so there may be something, but it's not well,
Correct.
that's what the 5,000 is for effectively.
Right, if we needed to evaluate,
Okay. And there may be some work involved in,
sorry, take a sample of the
okay.
sediment or
All right.
something.
That was the one that I just didn't seem right to me, but okay.
So we did, Mr. President and managers, we did update the track changes for the budget. And then also another added element, one thing that was requested was the apportioned levies, certificate of apportioned levies, and then also the Lake District budgeting.
Now I can spread out. Is there anything in this memo here that we need to address? Not really. Okay, before I get to the budget document, there was a new table for the Lake District budgeting, long-term outlook table. And I had a few questions on that one. I like this, by the way. I think this is great. Now we can follow those phosphorus reductions. We have it on the AIS report, which is great, but this is the overall, and with a timeline for when all of that's going to happen, so I do like that. But I was struggling with numbers being different than the TMDL report and also our current 10-year plan. So I reached out to Emily, and she recommended I talk to Megan, which I did, and that cleared up everything. So if you wanted to address that, Megan, so that people understand that these numbers aren't exactly what you're looking at in those two reports.
Mr. President, managers, so it was a good clarification point that Manager Anderson brought up. The second column has the district goal phosphorus reductions, and I should have clarified that these are the 2040 long-term district goals. And these reduction numbers go beyond the TMDL reductions, so they won't match the TMDL report, but they do match the
Again,
progress report.
Can you put your mic a little closer?
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yes. Okay, so the district goal phosphorus reductions are the long-term district goals, the 2040 goals. Those go beyond the TMDL load reductions just to meet the state standards. So these load reduction numbers are higher than the TMDL, and then they do match, Emily and I have been keeping track on a lake-by-lake basis, all the projects and load reductions and current water quality conditions, and that is what is the basis of the project progress report tables. There's more information that builds those graphs and tables, so that's where some of these numbers come from. And then in addition, one of the aspects, as McKinney and I were reviewing this, in Bone Lake, we split out Moody and Bone Lake, and then in Little Comfort Management District, we just had Little Comfort in our progress report, but we realized we really should be tracking each lake in terms of the reductions, goals, and the projects, because improvements in Birch Lake impact School Lake, which impacts Little Comfort Lake. So those numbers may look a little different, especially in that Little Comfort drainage area. But that is what Emily and I are looking at when we're keeping track of all these projects.
And this is the foundation also for the progress report? You said,
Correct.
correct?
The
Okay,
progress
so
report
that's good to know.
tables. Mhm.
And then just specifically, I had a question on Birch and School Lake. The first one under School Lake is upstream lake reduction goal achieved in Birch, and that's 267 pounds per year of phosphorus reduction. But yet that doesn't match the listing under Birch Lake. So if you can address that?
So the load reductions, when we're looking at School Lake, for example, from its perspective, Birch Lake has an existing water quality concentration of something over 100 parts per billion. To get down to 60 parts per billion is a phosphorus reduction that it would discharge to School Lake. That is 267 pounds, a difference between its current water quality and then if it is down to 60 parts per billion. But Birch Lake itself, because it's a depression in the landscape, it has a load going to it to maintain its water quality, and so it needs load reductions. Lakes always store a certain amount of phosphorus before it discharges, so the amount of reductions needed for a given upstream lake are usually larger than the reduction that a downstream lake would see. So that's why those numbers are different.
Okay.
And if you could just do that, like we talked about, in a footnote, so that that's clear for everybody when they're reading it. And then the asterisks also on Bone Lake and Little Comfort. And I think that was the other, oh, and also on Comfort Lake. Anytime there's an asterisk, if you could just put a footnote on what that means, so that we are clear. But otherwise, I really like this. The other change that I recommended was under Comfort Lake, the future capital projects, in parentheses, e.g. Home Depot. What we're really talking about there is not specifically Home Depot, but the stormwater treatment items that are listed in the Sunrise River Flowage Study. So it's more stormwater treatment systems, I'll call them, for lack of a better word. So it might be the tax forfeit property, might be retrofits, it might be a number of different things. So that's going to get cleaned up.
So, this is probably what you just explained, right? All right, so I'm still kind of confused. I don't know exactly like what all the, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I'm looking at like, okay, for Comfort Lake, for the district goal P reductions in the, like in the Sunrise River, that report, Sunrise River Quality and Flowage Report, it lists Comfort Lake as needing a reduction of 126 pounds of phosphorus to reach the short-term goal. And 395 to reach the long-term goal. And so why is this 825?
So I believe, so one of the things I'm factoring here is the upstream lakes. I do believe the 395 is from the watershed. So if 825, which is the total load reduction Comfort Lake needs, if you subtract out
Internal loading also?
it's a mix of internal loading and then what discharges to the lake downstream of Forest Lake and downstream of Little Comfort, and that's that 395 pounds per year. So I believe, if my math's right, 825 pounds minus the 415 that's listed under Little Comfort, and Forest Lake it's 15, then the remainder is that 395.
Yep,
Oh,
yep, that's how you get the 395.
all right.
And perhaps there's, that would be, because this table is meant to help the board keep track of, all the load reductions. And perhaps maybe this 825 number, the total reduction needed, maybe I should just focus on just the watershed reduction that you need and exclude the upstream lakes. I don't know if that maybe makes more sense, or maybe I somehow color code the upstream lakes to really just have those stand out a little bit. But I'm really talking about the remainder of the reductions are either from internal load within the lake or its direct drainage area. And that's what we're keeping track of then below those two upstream lakes.
Right, that's all the rest of the
I
stuff.
think maybe just a simple identifier right next to the item would be D for direct watershed and U for upstream. Because you do have them listed that way, and I'm assuming that anything not upstream, of course, is direct.
Right.
But that might help clarify that.
Mhm.
And
then
it might be another column that you could sort by.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. The other question I had on Big Comfort was the Bixby Park. It's listed as a 93 pounds per year reduction. Is that additional to what we're already getting? Because I thought we're in the 200 pounds per year right now.
106 was the number.
Right.
So there's a reduction, and this is where the comfort drainage, when we're looking at what Comfort Lake itself sees, there's a reduction factor for everything that flows through Shallow Pond. So Shallow Pond also provides treatment. It's almost like having another lake in between. It's a similar, so about 40% of everything that flows into Shallow Pond stays there. So if you see, the 200-pound reduction at the outlet of Bixby Park, Comfort Lake is going to see a 100-pound reduction.
93, I see.
And that was incorporated in the TMDL. I believe that's part of that reduction. That's noted in the TMDL numbers. But this is where we kind of get into the weeds a little bit when we try to keep track of this. But so in our progress report, the tables, just want to make sure I was calling it the right thing. The progress report, Emily and I, for all the Comfort Lake projects, we're always putting a reduction factor on every permitted project and all the ones that are implemented upstream of Shallow Pond. Just so we're not over accounting for the reduction.
So this
from
is the
practices.
direct impact to Comfort Lake.
The direct
At the
impact.
input to Comfort Lake
Correct.
of what the Bixby Park reductions were, but part of it is already being sucked up by Shallow Pond.
By Shallow
That's why
Pond.
It's not
Yep.
making it all the way to Comfort Lake.
Correct.
So only 93 pound reduction is actually.
Is that how you're representing all of these in all of the lakes?
Comfort Lake is the only one with a very distinct water body in the middle like that, where we've measured in and out of and have even shown with the monitoring data. And actually, our most recent samples collected from last year and this year are showing the same pattern as the TMDL found.
Yeah, I'm going to think about that. I think that's a little confusing to me that it's represented differently. If we're tracking total pounds that we've reduced through the watershed in total.
It's almost like we need
That-
a Shallow Pond
Well, exactly.
breakout here to show all the things feeding into Shallow Pond and then the things coming out of Shallow Pond in that last
Yeah.
reach to Comfort. I don't,
Because
if it overcomplicates it or makes
Right.
it.
I know this is there, at some point, we just have to draw a line, and I think we're only doing that reduction factor to be consistent with the way the modeling was done, and this is the only drainage area where a something was changed in actual modeling where we got all these
A
numbers
footnote
originally.
then. Put a footnote
Yeah,
in because.
there's, I think I need a lot more notes.
Well, it's not.
Right,
It's
but-
not gonna make sense in
Yeah.
a year.
yeah. Those are great suggestions, so.
This is nice.
Okay, and then the other question I had in the TMDL report, it was talking about the outflow from Forest Lake was reduced by 26%. I think that's the city, not the lake, to account for the reduction expected when the petition project on the Sunrise River is completed. So I did ask Megan to look into that. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that or not, but if that reduction has already been taken out of the TMDLs, and we haven't done those projects, then we need to be somewhere noting that that 26% reduction has to be accounted for. Did you have a chance to look at that, Megan?
Yep, Mr. President, managers, I did look into that, and I, the one thing I need to look into further, I believe this 26% reduction is also related to Shallow Pond. But I know there was an addendum to the TMDL implementation plan where we monitored it and found it to be 40%. But I do need to double check that,
Yeah.
what that relates to. So
And that's the
a good thing
point.
for
You
me to
don't
look
you don't have
into.
to answer
Yep.
it right now, but
Yep.
at some point, we need to have that answered. Okay, then I had very little comment on the budget per se. Even though this is for 2020, I just wanted to note under the aquatic plant point. Anyway, the aquatic plant management survey that we do every 3 years, Comfort wasn't included in the batch that we got in January of this year. It was supposed to be done this year, is what I thought Steve said. I don't know that it's going on this year, but I don't see it in 2020 either. So do you know, Mike? Is there a plant survey scheduled for Comfort this year?
Well, I think it's on a 5-year rotation, so, but I did actually, I don't remember specifically, but I do recall, as we were looking at some of these, talking with staff about them, and the ones that are presented are the ones that were, in fact, aligned with historical, previous surveys,
Yeah,
so.
but I specifically asked that at the January meeting when we got those reports
Yeah.
from McComas. And he said that that would be done this year, but I haven't heard that it's being done, and I don't see it on 2020. So I'm just raising the issue that needs to be looked at.
We will verify the rotation.
And we'll talk about that maybe after everybody's line item comments are made, but I've got some comments on the total page, okay?
Anything on the 5,000, Steve?
Yeah, again, I like this long-term outlook table. I think it's really well done, and it's really pushed us forward very, very well. One suggestion I do have for it, though, is I would find it helpful on future projects if we had the expected pounds out of there. And now, we know, we don't, that's a soft number, so maybe you put an E with brackets around it, so we know that that's an estimated number. For example, Sunrise River Headwaters Restoration is 800 pounds. I mean, that's a big number. So if you look at that versus something that's only 40 pounds, it shifts your attention to, maybe we should be trying to move that one faster. So that would be a suggestion I would have. The other question I have is that this district goal, phosphorus reductions pound per year. So if you go to the Forest Lake and you go halfway down the Forest Lake table, we've got that 6th Street dead end, the SEH work for 6 pounds. That's really done over 10 years, so that would be 60 pounds, right? Total, for a cost of 65,000 or 100,000?
Vendors are small, so you're bringing up a good point. When I originally made this, I didn't think about connecting all the different pieces together. So we had the costs originally put in place to help with that long-term forecasting when we were deciding on the loan. So these are annual pounds per year, and you're right, the total cost. So to get you couldn't use this table to get at a cost benefit. But that's something, that could be an additional item, because that is what we're looking for, is, you know, the lifespan, a life cycle cost
I brought it
benefit
up because
estimate.
I
Yep.
probably wouldn't want to spend 100,000 for only 6 pounds, because that's over $10,000 a pound, right?
Right.
So that's why I was asking if it's 60, then
It's
it's
60.
less, right?
Correct.
Okay,
So in the SEH memo, they
And you can
had
make that
a,
addition in your head, 'cause
Yeah.
it's usually 10 years, right? Most
Correct.
programs are 10 years.
if not even longer,
Longer.
yep,
So-
20 years. Mhm.
Okay, the same would be
Yep.
true for the retrofit under, down near the bottom, direct drainage retrofit implementation, 37 pounds for estimated $1 million. That's actually 10 times that, so it's.
Correct.
Becomes more of a reasonable cost per pound, okay?
So would that be a column that you'd add in, the cost benefit, the cost per pound or something?
We could give a ballpark.
Yeah, if you could
Yeah,
do
to kind of put
that,
it in a
just to
bracket.
size it, and- yeah. So we can compare them.
Yep.
Okay.
But the future numbers are only guesses now anyway.
No, I know, but
Right,
still,
yeah.
it'd be
But-
nice to trade off even the guesses sometimes and.
Right.
And they can change dramatically, though.
Right, and we can learn things that might shift it around, but this is what we know, the best we know today.
So the other question I had has to do with 3 projects on here, and they show, for example, the first one would be Forest Lake Internal Load Assessment. It's about, a little bit, about halfway down. It's a future project, it's gonna cost $30,000. It shows that we're gonna work, we might do that in 2020.
I do
Is that
believe
on
it's
there?
in
I don't think
the,
it's on there.
Mike, I believe we had this as an outstanding question of whether that was the 15,000 in 5228A, or if we were going to add a line item. And if not, then that would be a missing item if we want to also include
So
Forest
that's
Lake.
the second one, in a similar vein, we've got number, well, right below that, 2 down below that, WJD6, R7D wetland enhancement, that's worth 100 pounds, according to my numbers of the study. And we have $0, but it's scheduled, it could be possibly done in 2020 or 2021, or both probably. But we have no dollars this year, I mean, next year to do, this year or next year, which means it won't get started until 2021. So I question, trying to keep the hopper full here, I just raised that question because there's nothing on those 2 programs. And you don't have to give me an answer now, but I think we need to look at it. And the third one in a similar vein would be 2 more down from that, the Hayward Avenue R5 pond restoration, which was the priority program, it was medium. Same way there, it's scheduled for, it could be either 220 or 21, but we have no dollars in 2019 and no dollars in 2020. So again, that's gonna be 2 years away before we even look at it again, which seems kind of shame because we've done all the work on it, and if we could put a little money into evaluate or something, we could either push it up or get rid of it in terms of a higher priority. So those are the 3 things that I had questions on.
So Manager Smoltz, for Hayward, that is incorporated under 5228B4.
Which one?
In the
5,000.
2020 budget, 5228B4, the Forest Diagnostic Implementation Hayward Avenue, there's the 30,000, and that, it includes for both. It's the cattail harvesting,
No, I see that, but it's one below that, the R5 pond restoration.
oh, the R5 pond restoration.
I couldn't find that listed anyway. I mean, we budgeted, we approved the program, but we have no money budgeted for this year or next year, which means it won't get to 2021 then.
And I think for some of these, where we're at is, it's part of our feasibility assessment currently, and we're collecting data, and it's still not clear if that is the appropriate treatment practice in that watershed, so it's not quite in the 2020 budget. So
Too early.
it's too early to tell, or if
So
a practice makes sense there, that would be
What
something
additional
like
work are
that.
you gonna do to find out if you don't have any money though?
It's at the assessments, though, I thought you said in
Is
the.
it-
mine.
You are assessing it then, or?
We're currently assessing the R5 pond. If treatment in that pond is not appropriate, I guess I would say. We have been finding that, I guess as a sneak peek on some of our data analysis, and probably an update would be good, I guess, I'm hearing. So the wetland that R5 pond is in is actually a really high-quality wetland. Despite the agricultural field that's been there for a really long time, there is some sort of buffer that exists that seems to be protecting it. We didn't see a lot of evidence of sediment accumulation in that R5 pond. So I guess what I'm saying is the practice might be to just engage that agricultural landowner and work with them on practices. And their concentrations might just be higher in that wetland, even if it's high quality, just from wetland outfall. And that outlet had a lower phosphorus load than the R15, where the cattails are, and then the southern one that goes to the middle basin, where we're looking at that Claros technology. So.
Okay. Just a bit too early.
Monitoring of data, that's, what do we have in there for this year? 110,000? And the 205 or 206 is expected to continue from current year budget. So that's actually about 300,000
What's this now?
for monitoring, if I'm reading this, the line correctly. Under 3-003, monitoring and data assessment.
That's monitoring for,
The total is 208, I misread that one. That's the 2020 water management plan. So our current budget for that is 206 almost. It's hard to keep this straight, but yeah, 205, 764.
So does that relate back to what I was saying?
Yeah.
for the R5 pond restoration.
I don't think
Well,
so,
I-
because the monitoring is a standard stuff we
Well,
do every year.
Monitoring and assessments.
Assessment.
Because if you add up the numbers, you got 138,005, 4, that's 9, 267. There is a little extra money in there. Well, it's only 165,000 though. And that's all accounted for without any assessment in there. Yeah, the 138 and 26 is 165. So those are all well-defined programs. That really doesn't give us any project-oriented assessment.
Right.
Leeway.
There's nothing extra in there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just looking, is there anything in the 5,000 that was put in there for preliminary work?
The diagnostic implementation, I
Do
don't
you still
know.
need to do more monitoring in those areas that we're talking about?
I don't foresee a need to,
Beyond the diagnostic study?
beyond this year's assessment, I don't see a need in the R5 subwatershed to collect additional information.
Okay.
What we're proposing in that Hayward Avenue, there's the 30,000 to pursue project implementation for this cattail harvesting pilot project. And then, you know, if something were to change, you know, that's maybe where we could just bring a proposal to the board later for drawing from the loan or a project. But that's where our efforts are. And then in addition as well, there's the Claros
Yeah,
treatment system. And those to us seem the highest priority projects to
Yeah.
pursue next year.
well, we didn't have any money in the reserve area, so I'm proposing that we put something in there for projects that are identified as we move along. And that might include monitoring. I did want to just talk to your point, Steve, about the Sunrise River headwaters restoration. We don't know that that's the headwaters of the Sunrise River. And so I really don't want to call something that it's not. I mean, we're supposed to be scientific and exact about this stuff. And so the process of evaluating it is good, but we don't know that it's the headwaters. I was doing some research on what programs, or studies had been done on the Sunrise River, and up popped one from not too long ago, I think it's 2015. Chisago County authorized a Sunrise River study by the Army Corps of Engineers. And that looked at our watershed district, and they did not identify this area as a headwaters. It's actually coming from that Anoka County area. And there's a pond that comes over under the freeway and south of Himes Lake, and then comes down that channel that is the wetland across from Bixby Park, across Highway 8 from Bixby Park.
Interesting.
So that's what they identified, but I'd ask that you look at that study. This still needs to be investigated. I'm just saying,
We don't know it's not either.
No,
I think
it
you
could
were the
be-
one,
it
could
you
be a
were the
lot
one
of
suggested
Sunrise
Sunrise
River-
title on this.
Headwaters.
what
Lot of
I
branches.
suggested is that
I
we
think it's
look,
good.
is that we look at Sunrise River and get it delineated, so that we know. Because there are actually several feeding points.
Yeah.
Right, but they're all kind of feeding it, so I think if you look at the one watershed, one plan, having Sunrise River on it is gonna be a much better.
Then take out
Beginning of-
headwaters until we know.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the headwaters, I don't know. Sunrise.
Take out headwaters then, that's
Or
fine.
JD6, it's never been identified on any map as Sunrise River.
It is if you go to Google Maps and do a satellite
Is it?
image. I saw it on there, I mean,
Okay,
so,
Did
it
they-
says, I mean,
They said Sunrise.
JD6, but it says Sunrise River right on it.
Thank you, Wayne.
Well, I just.
Because that's- if
One
you-
of
if
the, one
you-
of them that I looked at.
If we go for a grant,
It was Google
with under
Maps.
one
and
watershed, one plan, which is where all the money's going, it's
when I
gonna help
zoomed
us
in, it was
tremendously.
JD6.
True.
And maybe rather than calling it
said Sunrise
JD6.
River on it.
So,
And managers, it's still in to follow up. I need to, I think Jen had offered we should contact DNR and just run it past them. It's something that we still need to do, and
Okay.
you're right, before we have a final budget, because it would be engraved in that, and then any grant applications. It's a follow-up that I think is something we should look into.
but if we encompass it
Are you able
for,
to see it on there?
Otherwise, Greg has offered to label it Grasky Creek, so.
I just,
if we broaden it to the whole Sunrise River though, then we're
Right.
looking at the entire district, because the river runs through and starts in different points in the district. So let's not just be myopic about one, let's
I
talk
agree.
about the Sunrise River.
I'm trying to get it as competitive as possible when we look for money, because
Yeah.
we're gonna need money. That's a
And-
big project, we need a lot of money.
And if we're doing the entirety of the Sunrise River, then it starts in our watershed at various points, then we are open to more money
Right.
than
I-
just.
I
than
love
just-
that idea.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
my point.
Yep.
It wasn't to say don't do it, I've been a proponent of this all along, it's just let's do it right.
Check. Yep.
Well, and there was some, I can't find it anymore, but there was some grants out there before, for anything contributed into like a national scenic riverway, which Sunrise River does.
Yep,
So, I came across some grants at one time, I can't find them anymore, but there used to be.
they were out there.
well, they're still there, I just read an article a couple weeks ago about how there's money for clean water, land conservation coming from the federal government. So they haven't dried up.
Okay. Any other comments, Steve, on the budgeting tables?
Not on the line item,
But how about the 5,000
no.
categories?
Oh, wait,
On
yes.
the regular budget?
Wait, I did have one question at the end. I did remember my name here. We've got land acquisition and management for $55,000. That's always a hit and miss type deal. And we talked about not putting it in there, just taking it from the reserve when an opportunity came up, just to keep our budget down a little lower. It's because it's something we're gonna do if we have a good opportunity. We'll find the money, and we got excess reserve now with all that loan money we're throwing in this year. The reserve is going up like crazy. So, I just raised the question because we got a lot of big placeholders in there this year, and
We've talked about that specifically, but, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So we could put that to 0, and then as we need to, we can
just put
pull
one
from
in.
reserve, just like we would anyway.
Yeah, maybe put a note in there, pull from reserve,
Right. Yeah.
if go decision.
And 55,000 may not be enough for,
No.
anyway, we'd pull
anyway.
from reserve anyway.
Right.
So it's just a guess.
This way, it just gives us some extra money to work with, and,
Right.
or else, if we get, next year's budget has gone through the seal, as you know.
Right, right. Yeah, I noticed that.
Well, we're doing a lot of projects, so it's bound to happen.
Planning to do a lot of projects. Okay, so you didn't have any other comments in the 5,000 area, Steve?
Nope.
Okay. Wayne, anything?
Let's see,
Or any other areas, I guess? Since we've gone through that, is there anything else?
So you want to talk about the total budget?
we have one, okay, so this, 5225 D3, the Bone Lake Outlet Wetland Assessment, up for the budget, that $250,000 that was added, right?
Yep,
Huh?
yep.
And that's done. We don't even know where all the phosphorus is coming from in between. Bone Lake's water is flowing out of there pretty clear. So, and then there's another wetland right on the other side of the road that's 15 feet deep. It's gotta be catching more phosphorus there, so. I mean, the money, the money's in the budget, but does this depend on what you find in your next studies?
Correct. So, Mr. President, managers, this one is, so we're currently working on the feasibility, and we've completed the survey work and collecting grab samples. But correct, so this estimate is from the original, CIP study in 2007 that first identified that project. So it gave a $250,000. So when we were going back to put kind of a maybe more realistic budget estimate and put projects in, the ones denoted in the italics kind of are those placeholder estimates. So we have less certainty of those.
Right.
That scale of a project, if we did some sort of wetland restoration on the outlet of that wetland, would be on the order of $250,000. Whether or not we determine that it meets our criteria for cost benefit and it's where the project should be, we'll know when we complete the study this year.
Okay.
So that's the uncertainty.
So part of that area that you're still studying, are we looking into those koi ponds to make sure everything is?
We are. Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, I mean, I was looking at a satellite map of that, they got kind of rolled right around all the koi ponds, but it looks like they got a driveway that goes right down to the creek there. It goes right up to it, so I don't know, what they're, I don't know, you guys will have to take a look around or whatever, but, and then the other, how is Bone Lake, the outlet wetland restoration, is that the same thing that was identified as the Birch Lake
Yes.
wetland restoration? Okay, so, and I noticed that they were talking about, like sheet pile weirs or whatever, possibly. So, I just wanna make sure, if we're talking sheet pile weirs, if this is something that slows down the water on Bone Lake, we probably better be really careful, because, otherwise we're gonna be in a whole nother situation with, we were with the carp barrier, so.
Correct. So managers, so we've, Brian Rucker actually in our office has spent many days, especially in this hot weather, he's completed a survey of that entire channel between Manning and the Bone Lake Outlet. And part of the reason we're spending a lot of time with that field data is we want to be really sensitive to the water levels.
Bone Lake is last few years have been in, under, no wake zones for sometimes weeks and months sometimes.
Yep,
So anything adding water to that system wouldn't be good.
right.
Back any more up.
So,
So the one below that, 225B4, we've got placeholder of $150,000, cost to be determined based on 2019 field investigation as part of the HHA model update. But we don't have any money budgeted to do that in 2019. So how is that going to get done to justify the $150,000 in current place? Sounds like we're way ahead of ourselves.
Part of the 150 probably would be additional design work. We are doing a survey and field investigation of that whole drainage system to look for, where the phosphorus is coming from.
We just approved that like a month
We
or
did.
so ago.
The H&H model.
As part of the it was a subtask
Right.
under that
more like a
project.
desktop study then, or something like that?
No, I
Well,
think they're
it's
actually
focused
doing
on
field-
this part of the model,
They're doing actual field work as well.
right?
This year. In 2020, if a project's identified that 150, it would be the final design and then into maybe construction.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we decided to focus here and then maybe go to Forest Lake or something next
Right,
time. Yeah.
right. Got to keep doing the model in increments. So. Okay, anything else on 5,000? All right, so now the total budget, are we gonna look at that and pass out? Which one, last one? Okay. All right. This guy, looks like, it's right after the 5,000.
On the backside.
Okay. So what's our total tax levy gonna be then this year?
They're proposing a 1.3,
1.3, okay.
but there's a deficit of 854,000.
Yep.
This is my recommendation. I'll just, these are my notes. Was to increase the levy to 1.6. And then we have additional monies that we've reserved from that loan program, 0%. With 10-year payback, I would recommend that we do another 1.2 or 1.5 million. With, I've got, I think administration probably needs another 100K allocated to it. Programs, when I looked at the detailed pages, and then the programs 200K, and then projects probably 900. Maybe not all of that, because it depends on when all of that work is completed on the assessment. So they might be doing work in 2020 for some of those, but actually building in 2021 is my guess. But we have that on reserve for the 900,000 to be allocated from that loan fund when needed to this project area. And then I would also recommend that we have a reserve contribution. So if we have, like we were talking about before, if there's an opportunity to do a project sooner because the reports are ready and so on, we can pull what's needed from the reserve for that or the loan fund. So that can work either way. But it looks like our beginning year reserve is going to be 874,000 from this estimation. So that's a okay level for the reserve.
So why would you want to raise the, levy? Because even with that levy at staying where it is, we've still got 870. I mean, what you're doing is, you're taking your loan from this year, and you're pushing it all into reserve. So you're just drawing that down next year. And then even though we're way over, it still comes down to be a 42% ratio. And I would actually recommend, we never get our 1.3 million. This year, we're another 9% below. I was gonna take every year, take a 4.5% increase to get us back close to what we should actually get. Why should we have to eat that money? Or even maybe go up 10% this year.
So we're levying a certain amount, but we're not getting as much.
Yeah,
as we're
this is the third year in a row where we've been down by 9%. That's
Yeah.
$110,000.
Are valuations going down?
No, people won't pay, I think. Maybe,
Because we're not
Paul,
getting.
maybe Paul knows why. Why don't we collect as much money as we should from the tax levy? Your city have the same problem?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm new with this.
Yeah.
Tax levy thing this year. So I'm gonna claim ignorance.
So I was gonna recommend 4.5%, but maybe we should go 9 though, but that 4.5%, you get through 4.5% through easily. But,
So you're saying that we're gonna be 5% short on this levy, is what you're saying?
well, we're gonna be 9% short because we've been 9% the last 2 years.
Oh, 9%, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so 9%. Well, then the loan amount, I think, needs to be raised then.
Well, it would, yeah, it would be if we needed the money.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, we got a lot of those placeholders in there, like at $250,000, $200,000. Just take one of those out or cut them back a little bit, like we did with the
Right.
other money. That would bring it down to be a more reasonable number. I hate to keep taking that loan money when we probably aren't gonna use it.
Well, we don't get it, and it's reserved for us.
That's what we do, right.
We're approved for
It's
that
essentially
amount.
in reserve.
Yeah, so we don't get it until we actually,
need
we have
it.
to front load, as I understand it, front load the projects and then get reimbursed for it. So you've got to have enough in your budget so that you can move forward on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is that when you put those placeholders in, if we don't do a couple of those projects, now we're gonna be way under what we said we were gonna do. And people that just look at the numbers, say, we were gonna spend $3.5 million and we only spent $2.5 million. So they didn't get only 2/3 of what they were supposed to get done. And
Well,
it's mainly because projects weren't real to begin with. We put $400,000.
It's not that they're not real. it's
Real
that
at the
they're-
time this
they're-
year.
They're delayed
Right.
for whatever reason.
We gotta look at how people are gonna look at what our performance is by the end of the year.
Or, I mean, something might not happen, you know?
No, I know that,
Yeah,
but
it's-
when you know it's probably not gonna happen, you're just inviting more pain.
Well, then
More
you,
criticism.
then you move to funding with that loan program. Because you get approved for X dollar amount, and if a project doesn't happen, you don't expend the money. And you don't get that loan. Money
that
coming
Bone
in
Lake,
either.
I mean, it's very possible that won't happen. Because we don't know where the phosphorus is coming from yet. If it's not coming from,
Wetlands.
from the outlet of Bone Lake to where that's supposed to be, we're certainly not gonna put in a wetland restoration, right?
Right.
Last year
That
we
shouldn't be
did,
that hard to figure out.
last year we did the opposite. We cut everything out. Even when there was a good chance the project would go ahead and we had to add a lot of that back. Now this year we got it all loaded up with big placeholders. Why don't we just put in 50,000 or 100,000 so we remember to do it? But if we need it, we can just take the loan out. Mike?
Mr. President and managers, so all of those, yes, if we just look at 3 specific projects, volume control, 5220B, 5225D3, that's the one that Manager Mo mentioned, the Bone Lake Outlet Wetland, and then the Forest Lake Judicial Ditch, which is 52228K. Those 3 items are 850,000.
I know.
So, so that would balance the budget.
Why
so
don't we
they
just
are-
put in,
Right, and they all, if,
None of that.
they are all projects that we could use the loan funds for
Well,
at the
if we need
time.
them, right.
If we need them, so we could take it out of reserve to pay the bill more immediately, but as soon as we get the invoice, we can submit for the loan
I would
funds.
feel more comfortable doing that way. Then we've got some dollars in there, so it reminds us we gotta get the thing done, and we keep working on it. And if we hit pay dirt and move ahead faster, we can pull the loan money in.
Yeah, it would not need to be much, in my opinion, because we're not gonna forget to do the projects are gonna
I
need to
know,
be
but
done, but,
450.
so.
Actually, that's $1 million, those projects. Get 'em all
Well, just
up.
the 3, but if you did more,
I have
yeah.
$1 million too.
Yeah, so if you took 10 or 20% of that and put that in instead,
Yeah, and hold.
it'd still be a
spots.
big number compared to the other stuff, and hold it, and then,
Then we're down to
Well,
2.4.
Pick up extra
0.5.
110,000 with the levy.
Right. Well, yeah, I think we still want to go up. So you're saying right now at 1.3, we don't get that much.
We haven't
So if
every
we
year,
go
we've
up to
been short.
1.45, then,
Just go up 4.5%, take half of it back. Each
Okay.
year, take half of it back.
yeah, so.
well, the estimate for year end is almost 1.2 million, and we budgeted for 1.3.
Yep. So we should
So
for
it's
sure get
100,000.
1.4 this year, if not 1
Yeah.
point. Yeah. just-
1.4,
We should go up to 1.4 or 1.5 this
Yeah.
year. We know we've got loan reserve we can draw on if we have a project hit pay dirt. And we can drop our total expenditures budget by whatever amount we pull back, and then we decide how much to put back in, be placeholders, so we can drop it about $1 million or.
Well, unlike last year we pulled those things that we didn't think we were gonna be ready for and put it into the reserve.
Right.
Specifically, on top of what the reserve already was, so that we could immediately pull that
Right.
out. But I like the direction of, the 0% loans are basically a reserve
That's our reserve.
for projects. So if we have enough where we can do that preliminary work and pay that preliminary, those
Yeah.
preliminary invoices, we get paid back within 10 days, I suppose, right?
Right.
30 days?
Yeah, I'd say a couple weeks or something, yeah, it
It's
depends on.
not 2 months or 3
Right,
months.
right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to do it. I mean, when we first got into that, we didn't want to raise levies. Well, here you go. You've got this beautiful gift
Right.
that not too many districts even now are tapping into, that loan fund. And it's there to be used.
Yep.
It's there to accelerate projects, so let's do that.
We can accelerate projects, then we can figure out the payback schedule and.
Right, you can accelerate only so far.
Yeah, it's,
Nothing's free.
it's not for free.
Well, it is free.
It's a lever,
You
it's a
have to-
leverage.
You have 10 years to pay it back.
Right.
So at some
9 by
point,
10.
when you don't have the projects that you're doing, you're still levying so that you can pay that
Those-
money back. It's an advance.
Right.
It's an advance on taxes is all it is.
And so it levels out the draw that we have to do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna raise the tax levy to in the 1.4,
Yeah,
1.5?
let's look at the percentage, because we're at 1.3 now.
Well, when I did 9%, I came up to 1.417.
If we levy 1.5 and we're only going to collect 1.4, if this holds true, or 1 point,
Yeah, but you 1.5 of the tax bill, see 1.5 on 1.3, so that's a pretty big percentage. I think we should stay around 6 or 7%, not much go above that.
So I think 1.4 would be,
That's fine.
that'd be about 7.6%.
Yeah.
7.7. So if we go up to 1.4 there, and then we do what we need to do on the expenditure side, that'll bring us down pretty close to a balanced budget. Showing here, and then we have the reserve fund through the loan
Right.
program to jumpstart those projects that come in as winners.
I agree with that.
So,
yep.
how does that sound to everybody else? Mike, does that sound like something you can
Work up for the next
work out?
Pretty much what I had down, except.
Yes, I
the
can
numbers
just
wrong.
confirm some of the
Let him
numbers,
do
but
that.
yes.
Okay. That's workable?
He's got our priorities already,
Yep.
so.
All right. Let's proceed that way.
Very well.
All right. Now I'm fully lost on where we're at.
Mike, would we, just a question, would we have to ask for more funds, go through that process again? No, so we still have that 1.5 million available?
Furthermore, the PCA has approved us up to $5 million for
Oh,
loans.
perfect, okay, so we've got a big enough pool, good.
Or any of these projects
right.
grant worthy that we're talking about here?
Yes, Manager Mo, we would look to apply for Clean Water Fund grants along the way, or others. We have recently completed an interview for
We're still gonna do that.
some EPA funds.
So I had a question about this net tax capacities memo from the DNR, or Department of Revenue. So, looking at the table on the back, it says Chisago County's net tax percent distribution is 22.6 and Washington's is 77.3.
Correct.
Is that the split of the watershed district between the counties? I thought it was a 60-40 split, not a 77-23.
I think that's land
That's
area.
the net tax, that's the net tax capacity
Gotcha.
percentage difference,
This
but,
is how much is in the district of what the tax capacity is.
Building, commercial,
gotcha.
yeah.
right. But I will note that, of interest, I mean, it reflects, Met Council's, projections of the growth in 35. The Chisago, net tax capacity percentage has increased, I think, every year, at least over the 5-6 years and all that I've been working on the budgets here for the district. So, right, it was almost an even 80-20, but it's maybe 0.5% each year. A little more of a percentage is going into Chisago County, from Chisago County, so. You would think that'd be maybe more the opposite, higher value
Right.
in Washington County, but more development and more activities occurring,
It's coming.
right,
this way.
yeah. And we're seeing it in our housing and the commercial and, for the Chisago portion.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the budget tonight? All right. How about reports of staff? Mike?
Mr. President, managers, of course, been an interesting last few days, but it does remind me of a couple of items. One, that in lieu of staying at their current office space, you know, there was some interest in having a shower with their last piece, given the nature of staff's work and consistently being in the field and either dirty, sweaty, and then sometimes have to go to an event in the evening or something, or just, or whatever. So one consideration is maybe to work with the board on a policy that, where we could approve some membership to the YMCA or some portion of it, so then they could access those showers aside from the health benefits, but, the other was, you know, a couple of years ago or last year, we had that really strong winds that came through Forest Lake, and there was some damage, but, you know, you saw some of the pictures. I mean, there were now 16 tornadoes that were confirmed last Friday and early Saturday, the straight line winds, and the damage over there, in that, from Balsam Lake all the way to the eastern side of the state, is really, I mean, it's the worst that I have ever seen in any location. I mean, the one road in and out is still just a one lane, you know, it's impassable. There's so many trees that are over. So they're setting up a voluntary operations center in addition to the emergency management activities. But the one thing that I guess is maybe a question for the board is, what would the district staff's role be in the event of an emergency or situation of that nature locally, especially within the district? I mean, you know, for me, at least, going about our normal business when there would be potentially be so much need, would that maybe not be serving the public as well as we could be. So it might be a matter that, you know, either through some training or some other things that, or whatever, we identify what resources the district could provide to other government entities, you know, for that need, because it's bound to occur at some time, and if we prepare for it, just like our other things that we do, then we would be prepared to provide support to the community as well.
Sort of an emergency action plan or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, whatever we're capable of providing, supplying, and helping out. I mean, we wouldn't be out probably clearing trees, but there could be things we could do.
Not everybody, some of us.
Not
can do
everybody. Some people are qualified to do that. Other people would just get hurt. So,
that. Right.
myself, for instance.
But even just, you know, pulling debris or
Yeah.
station, you know, stationing or being at a volunteer station to help with just direct other volunteers. Yeah, I mean, so there are those kind of things, and so, you know, we will have another natural disaster at some point in the area, and being prepared, I think, would be prudent in our part. So my recommendation that we work on.
I think your idea of doing an inventory of of what our capabilities are, and then sharing that with our communities, Forest Lake, Wyoming, what would be Chisago Lakes Township probably. All of those are required to have emergency response plans, and we could certainly fit into that. I'm sure they'd love to help, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look into that further, so I'll add that to it.
You don't have anything else to do, right? I mean, you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, right?
It's been some nice weather this week, I could tell you.
What's the closest town to your place?
It was north of Turtle Lake and just west of Comstock, so. But there are certain areas that they experience 100% tree loss on their lots.
Just flattened. Just
Right, the lake is, I mean, the western side looks nothing like it. I mean, and I'd say most of those, I would venture to guess there's probably 95 to 98% loss on the whole western half of the lake. Came across and through an open wildlife area, had a lot of power. That straight line winds was even stronger than the tornado that came through afterwards. So,
Wow. Were there any questions for Mike on his report?
No, I didn't have a chance to really read through it carefully, but nothing jumped out at me.
Yeah,
in that paper, so.
I read it once. All right. Okay, you are?
President Managers, can I, back to the, and maybe I missed this, are there action items on that draft 2020 budget memo
Oh,
for the accounting?
there were, yes. There was the budgeting software. Yeah, there were two motions for budgeting software. That's right.
Oh, yes. I'll make that motion. I'm so excited about that.
yeah. Well, I did want to just note that, I think on Friday, right after this went out, staff had a conversation with, Minnehaha Creek staff. They were inquiring as to some different things of how we did our budgeting. And so they were looking at this similarly. But one thing that we learned during that conversation was that they're using the same Sage 50 software and for all their internal accounting purposes. So we're same on that page. But the other thing was that they had just this year, in February, pulled all the payroll in-house using a Sage program directly with the software company. So this proposal is framed that we would contract with Clifton Larson Allen. You know there's a markup. So the question that we're evaluating is, can we go right to the Sage the company that's developed the software and get tech support and everything else to do the same thing? So presently, the board could approve this, and then we could, with a certain condition that if we evaluate something that's lesser money, then we would directly go with that. But just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that development part.
Did you talk to CLA about their opinion about this software? Have they?
Oh, yes,
They
yeah.
must have clients, and do they give it a good rating?
Yes, yeah, yeah. And it's really, since it's still based on the software that we're using for all of our accounting purposes, we liked it for that reason, and staff seems to, agree with it. They're the ones that will have to use it on a more day-to-day basis, but.
Well, I would like to move the motion as presented to authorize the administrator on advice of council to sign an addendum to our district service agreement with CLA, subscribing to accounting software in an amount not to exceed $325 a month, and receiving setup assistance from Clifton Larson Allen in an amount not to exceed $18,500.
Second.
So could we reword the motion to give Mike the flexibility to find another service provider other than CLA? Because that's really what you're suggesting, right, is we could go directly to Sage.
Correct.
So it could be with CLA or other qualified vendor?
Sure.
For both of these, and then that would allow you the flexibility to substitute in, with these maximums still
Correct.
in place.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's fine. CLA or some other provider.
Right, right.
No second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we have a second motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I move to transfer $20,125 from the reserve fund to line item 1-002-4203, computer supplies / software / IT support.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Got us all grown up, even allocating money for the prize.
You just watch that Vince Vaughn movie.
All right. You are, yeah.
Okay, Mr. President, managers, so as I was alluding through the budget discussion, we've had a lot of boots on the ground over the last month, getting out to all of our assessment sites, but I thought one thing that might be of interest, Kyle is with us tonight, and he has a couple pictures. You may have noticed on 97, there's work on the Shields Lake Fish Barrier, so he can speak to that.
Cool. Good evening, managers, board president. I know I've met you a few times. For those that aren't familiar, my name is Cal Crawford, water resource engineer with Emmons and Oliver Resources. I've been intimately involved in many district projects over the past 4 to 5 years. So work began on the fish barrier on Monday. You can see them driving piles. Overall, if you want to advance forward one. So they have completed all the beam installation and sheet piling, and they are currently in the process of fabricating the cage itself. The piles have taken a little longer than anticipated. One beam, for example, they hit probably a dozen boulders on the way down, so they spent about a full day just trying to get one beam in.
Oh, wow.
But I've been very happy with Dunaway Construction working on the project thus far. So I've been very, very happy with the progress they made and their work quality in general. So there's the current status, the 5 support beams, the steel sheeting on the back end, and the reinforcement bar on the front. So they're hoping to get the grading in next week, and hopefully we can have it fully implemented by the end of next week.
Wow. Nice.
Is that all algae? That's,
Or duckweed.
Duckweed.
or turning that pond? Is
I'll
it?
refer to Megan on that one.
Okay.
Let's hope it's duckweed.
I don't know, somebody was out there walking in it. I thought they might know.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Anything else?
Nothing further.
Okay, any questions? Yeah.
Managers, I just want to note that, so we've been attempting again to do the burn out at Third Lake Pond. So with many calls, many complaints, it's, and it's frustrating from the standpoint that they've been complaining about its look, but they're not allowing the contractors to go out and do their jobs. So we continue to run into the same issue in every occurrence, so I don't know if we can somehow work with the city and trying to get something out. And I mean, these are professionals, they know what they're doing, you know, there's just a lot of difficulty in making it a successful project when, I mean, but we've sent out numerous communications about what we would expect, and but here we are trying to complete a herbicide treatment because now the end of July, I mean, we're still at square one, so to speak, on that side of it, and we're 2 years past construction. But just wanted the board to know.
What's the next step on this? Is it to work with the city maintenance people or to go to the administration?
Well, it's not the maintenance, I mean, it's just a matter that, I'm not, frankly, I'm kind of at a loss because we've put out a lot of publications about the process, what to expect. et cetera, timing, and I know that Prairie Restoration is very frustrated. If there was a way, I think, for them to get out of the contract, they probably would. So, but in reality is that we're on track at this point for that work to be completed, and we have them under contract for 3 years, and we won't be at all near what we would expect after a 3-year period. So, and then whether or not they would be willing to extend the contract to finish the work, to get it where it needs to be, but,
Do we need to sit down with the administrator from the city of Forest Lake?
well, it's not even that. I mean, it's just a matter of somehow conveying to the residents, and I'm not sure, I mean, we've tried just about every path possible we can provide to you all the examples of communications and the literature and pictures of process, timelines, everything. So, and maybe it's a matter that we will never be able to address their concerns, in part because there are so many competing personalities out there that work against each other and then consequently work against us.
But it is city property ultimately.
Correct, but
Okay.
we still are trying to work with the residents that have their property boundary to that,
I
that public
understand,
area.
I
But it is
understand.
city property.
But it is city property.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
so if we go and talk to the administrator about all of these difficulties, the ultimate goal here, of course, is to keep Forest Lake clean.
Mhm.
And that supersedes what these individual people may or may not believe is correct for their area, but it's not their area.
Right.
They have been
Right.
allowed by the city to treat it as their area, but it's not.
well, the contractor has gone so far as to ask if there would be possible to have a police officer on site
Yeah.
at the time that they're doing
Well-
the work.
It may be necessary.
I think a formal meeting with the administrator to talk about this
Yeah.
project and its importance to Forest Lake. And we need to keep this moving forward. So if they can marshal some resources to help and assist in this, I think that makes sense. And if you want any of us to go with you or with whoever staff is going to be there,
Yeah.
that would be good. Our engineers should probably be there as well.
It might be a matter of inviting all the residents to a meeting at City Hall even and
Yeah.
getting them all
Well,
in a
that may
room.
be all it
Absolutely.
takes. It's just a face-to-face meeting with everyone and just say, look, this is what's gonna happen.
This is what has to happen.
We're going to do this, and if
Right.
we have to post police officers at the corner of the property to make it happen, and the city's willing to back that up, which
Exactly.
I don't
The
know if
ci-
they would.
Well, the city has to be part of it.
Right.
So our goal is set. How we get
Right.
there has to be determined mutually. But public dollars were used to do this project. And the option, if they're not going to allow us to do that, is we have to tax them back on a sub-watershed level for that expense.
Be nice to
we
have
could
that
do
piece of
that.
data.
We could do that.
Yeah. At the meeting, if you're gonna have a meeting, it might be nice to have that piece of
Could we
data
do
about
that?
what it's gonna cost.
We could, right?
You can certainly establish a sub-watershed taxing district. It's a new question about using it to recover costs already expended, but that's something one could look at.
Well, Bowser was threatening to take money back, right?
Because of the,
Because the project wasn't completed the way.
well, the
it was.
buffer.
Yeah.
Until we did that varied buffer thing, so.
So
But
if
it
we
might-
lose that money, we could take it back from them then, right?
Well, that's what I'm proposing.
That's what it's
We're
Chuck-
just not
Chuck-
allowing them to plan? What-
Because they're being, well, I don't want to say violent, but they're with
Disruptive.
disruptive, thank you, that's the right word.
Right.
They're being disruptive in the process to get us to a effective, good project. And,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have to pay the cost of that. We have that mapping all set out in our
Yeah.
original
I know.
planning document so that we can get down to that micro level.
It might be a matter of, though, too, if we're not successful in this establishment of the buffer, which is required per per the Clean Water Fund grant itself. And then we have to expend more money beyond that, which we have already done. But even going forward, if we need additional contracts, then maybe then that would be the basis for recovery from those costs. But it's really a matter that when the contractor goes out there to do the work, he typically gets engaged by somebody and then makes statements that are such that he questions either the boundary or
Right.
what his ability or authorization. And so then it's, yes, either try to have somebody go out there with them, but even then, it's,
I think we need the city involved. The city's ultimately responsible for that land, not those people.
And let them draw the boundary and
Well, you
paint on
could,
the
I mean, if the
ground.
city were involved, the city could say, hey, listen, this is part of your neighborhood, we're willing to work with you and make it look nicer, we'll just put a fence around it and you can look at a fence.
What do you, and it won't be a pretty fence.
well, we did have the city out there, remember, at the time, Councilmember Mara Bain went out there with the previous administrator and staff. I mean, we had that meeting, so, but it just continues. So
We have to do it again.
perhaps, but
Well, yeah, like Jackie said, if there's anything that we can do, you need us to do, let us know. Be there. We'll do what we can.
I'll request a meeting with the administrator.
All right. All right. That's it from EOR. Smith Partners. Okay.
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
All right. Treasurer's report.
Okay, this month we had income of $97,260.69. 90,000 of that was the Bowser grant that we received. And we haven't received our tax payment. That should be in the next month, I guess, so we should be receiving that shortly. And then expenses for the month came in at $214,213. So I request that the board make a motion to pay the expenses for the month
And accept the report.
and accept the report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Report of officers and managers. Wayne?
Somebody that posted something on the Bone Lake Facebook thing the other day, and it's like, it said, bad news bears, look what we just found near our dock. And so I was like, oh, crap. So I opened the picture up and it was just a big, it was a mussel. like a big clam or mussel or whatever.
Is it an elephant
Like
mussel?
the big, yeah, the big one. And then she posted it again, I guess, I was informed that's not a zebra mussel. So-
Dang.
Goodness.
Jackie and I attended the One Watershed, One Plan meeting, and they were getting into setting priorities. And I was encouraged by some of the progress I saw there. They're using some of the terms that Mike's been trying to promote and some of the concepts we're trying to promote. We also got approved to make a special presentation at the next meeting or the meeting after for somewhere between 15 minutes and 30 minutes. So to help share the concepts, because they're gonna have to follow these concepts. So, Mike, we can talk about that later on when things calm down for you.
Okay.
But I made a copy of just a few of the slides on the prioritization thoughts. I thought I'd just share them with you so you get a chance to see what they're thinking. The most important slide is the last one. You'll see a lot of the terms that we've been trying to promote, just for your information.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it turns out, but it seems to be moving in the right direction. There you go, Mike. Okay. I sent you all the slides if you want to. Chuck, you want to? I got extra. So that's it, pretty much.
Okay. Jackie?
Nothing really. I've mentioned everything so far about the lilies I want to mention, but I did notice that we had another round of the treatment, the individual treatments. We have one on either side of us, and on the southerly-most section of our property, the lake shoreline, we have a lot of lilies, and they're dying. So the treatment was done, the second treatment was done, and then we have a lot of current in Comfort, of course.
Right.
And so that whole patch of probably 20 by 10 or 15 feet is
Dying
just
back.
shriveling up and dying. So not too happy about that.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right, I got my latest edition of Outdoor News again this week. And there's another article about the Wright County AIS issues. And apparently the DNR is having a roundtable with fishermen and landowners, and they're having a heck of a battle up there about this. But one thing I did notice is they laid out a breakdown of where the state funds are coming from and what they're being used for AIS type things. So I thought it was interesting. I don't know how it applies to us, but it might be some data that we might be able to use down the road, so. But yeah, they're having some pretty interesting standoffs between the people who fish, and the people who fish are starting to accuse the landowners of trying to keep people from using their lakes, that they're trying to reduce lake access with all this AIS stuff that they're doing for the express purpose of keeping people from outside from using the lakes. And so it's getting a little bit heated, the discussion, so. Yeah. All right, then we have the summary and approval of board direction. I don't, Chuck, if you note any?
Well, Mr. Chair, I noted a number of comments in the budget discussion.
Okay.
Do you want me to go through those?
No, I assume that we'll get those captured in the minutes, so.
Okay, other than that, the only non-budget related item has to do with the way that the 5-year data are
Right.
aggregated
Yeah, in the AIS report.
in the AIS report.
Okay. Jessica?
The only other item that I noted was having Garrett check on the blue water science delineation of the curly leaf pondweed post-treatment
In Shields.
in Shields Lake. Yep.
Okay.
And then just another small, correcting, excuse me, that reference on the AIS summary about the early treatment on Comfort Lake.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, good. Anybody else think of anything? All right.
Well, we had notes, of course, on the budget.
Right.
sheet.
Right, yeah.
That's like you said.
Right, well, that'll all get captured
Yeah.
under the budget process. So that's pretty extensive. Okay. All right, I think a motion for adjournment to order.
Can I just give one update from Maude?
Yeah.
We're working on a plan to combat, in the next legislative session, the efforts by the group that Mr. Lambert put together, developers and so on. And they have a lot of marketing material that they've put out. It looks great. It's wonderful. It's well-written, but it's factually inaccurate. And so Maude is looking at producing materials to counter that, of course. And we're meeting with some folks here in about 3 weeks. And so we'll be putting together an outline. So if you have any thoughts on that, I think I shared some of that information about a month or so, 6 weeks ago. But if you have any ideas and so forth, let me know before that meeting so that we can incorporate it, okay?
That reminds me of one other thing, that Maude sent out this comment for their strategic plan. So we have all that to do by September 1st, right?
Yes, that's right.
I was looking at it today, so.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, take a look at the Maude strategic plan and
Yeah.
send some comments in, so.
Mike is now he's the administrator representative to that group.
All right.
And I'm on it as well.
Yeah, yeah, I saw your name.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, someone want to say?
adjourn. I'll second.
Motion been made, seconded, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody's opposed to that one.
Is this slideshow something that you did, or is this?